City University Television presents the American Theater Wing Seminars. Working in the theater. This seminar, performance.
Welcome to the American Theater Wing's Working in the Theater Seminars, now in their 30th year, coming to you from the Graduate Center of the City University of New York. Professionals are brought together by the American Theater Wing for these seminars to help provide an insight to what it's like to work in the theater. Today's seminars with 6 leading performers. We hope to learn not only about their preparations for a career in the theater, but also about the drive, passion, and temperament needed to survive in the theater. I'm Isabel Stevenson, Chairman of the Board of the American Theater Wing. I would now like to introduce our moderator for this seminar, television commentator Pia Lindstrom. Pia.
We've got an absolutely terrific panel. I expect to hear great things today. Starting on my right, the fabulous 2-time Tony Award-winning actor John Cullum, dignified beyond belief, who is now in something called Urinetown. Explain that. Edie Falco, of course, we know from the HBO series The Sopranos, but she is on Broadway, extraordinary in Frankie and Johnny and the Clair de Lune.
Thank you.
Lea Salonga, we know because you're always on Broadway. Flower Drum Song, Miss Saigon, a young woman who's been working, I remember, since you were 7 years old.
That's right.
Stanley Tucci, writer, actor, director, producer, also in the same play with Edie Falco. And Charlayne Woodard, who writes her own material.
That's
3
right.
times you've done one-person shows, and that's a good thing for an actress to do. And at the very end, but not least, Marissa Jaret Winokur, who is our new heroine on Broadway in the big hit Hairspray. Welcome.
Thank you.
Marissa, when I was reading what was in the playbill, you said that you had a teacher who found your voice.
Yeah.
How can somebody find your voice?
Well, this teacher, actually, Eric Zecher, was my voice teacher, and he actually found Tracy's voice, I said, because my voice is much different than Tracy's voice is. My voice is low and husky and raspy, and Tracy's much more, she's 16, and she sounds more like Leslie Gore. So I took about 2 years to actually figure out how to place my voice into a 16-year-old sound and my voice into like a more of a nasally and airy voice that a 16-year-old 60s sound would sound like. So this teacher worked with me to find that.
You mentioned a true teacher.
Yeah, Don
What's a true
Walters.
teacher as opposed to a false teacher?
Oh, well, I think a true teacher is one who finds the inner soul of a student and doesn't just teach the conventional ways, teaches the ways that makes a student learn. And this teacher, when I was in 6th grade, realized that I had a lot of energy and I wasn't a great student, but he realized that I had a lot more to offer in other ways, so he pushed me towards music and drama and theater and dance, and to show that, you know, you don't have to be a great, you know, reader or great mathematician, but you might have other things that, you know, you can give to the world, and he really brought that out of me. So I found that's a true teacher to me.
It's interesting to me that both Stanley and Edie, you mentioned the same teacher, somebody at CUNY Purchase.
Mm-hmm.
Who is this person?
George Morrison.
And why do you mention him as so important?
Well, SUNY Purchase was is a conservatory that we both went to for 4 years, though we went at separate times. Edie came right after I graduated. And he was it was a mentor system set up at the time, so he was our teacher for those 4 years, at least for my 4 years. You had him for 2 years.
What did he do for you?
He did a ton of things, and I don't think I realized it at the time, because I don't think I was a good student per se. I was very shy, and there were a lot of students who talked a lot more than I did, but I think now, a number of years later, I'm realizing just how much he got through to me. You know, it's hard to explain what 2 years worth of teaching is, but there was something very simple about his work, and has informed everything I've done since then, I think.
John, have you had a true teacher or a false teacher?
Well, I think I must have had false teachers. They didn't even have a course. When I was at the University of Tennessee, they didn't have a course in drama. The closest you get to was a speech major, and I was flunking out of business school, so I went into that. And of course, I was doing theater all the time, and I didn't really. I just had people who influenced my work. Most of them. The people that have been, I think, have been other actors and directors too. I envy the people who have had somebody who that you could call a mentor, because I never really had that. I just had bad examples.
It's always good. Charlayne, you're a member of the Actors Studio.
Yes.
Are you a method-trained actress?
Well, yes. Well, I went to the Goodman School of Drama in Chicago and had that kind of training. And then I wanted to, when I came to New York City and started doing musicals, after 12 years of musicals, I wanted to get back to what I came to do. So I joined the studio, and I found a true teacher in Geraldine Barron. And
why is she true and
well,
somebody else isn't?
Well, she was amazing because she took care of the total thing. There was a philosophy that she introduced me to, the whole thing of actually being very true to yourself all the time and finding out that that inside-out kind of work, you know, and using yourself in your work. When you can do that, and knowing yourself, and knowing the world. You know, she said things like, it's very important for us to go to museums and go to this and observe and step out. We don't have the luxury of sitting back in our bubble and just being artists. That we have to step out, we have to get out there and go to the dangerous place or the other neighborhood or get to know the people of the world, so that when you make a choice, it's an informed choice. It's not a pedestrian kind of, what's the choice I saw? It's something, it's like you have a huge bag of tricks. Well, you know what I mean? As opposed to a little packet over here, you know, like that. But she also had a spiritual life. That was something she introduced me to. Not like coming in, like, let's do a little meditation or anything. Over the years, you watch. I remember coming in one day, and she said, I came in, I said, I didn't get this audition, they're racist. You know?
Right.
And she said, no, they're not. Just like that. So I didn't understand. She said, that's not why you didn't get it. And she, you know, so as time goes on, then you say, what does she mean? No, you know, she doesn't know. She doesn't live in my skin. And, you know, and as you go along and you get really, really honest and true, and it's all revealed to you, she taught me to think another way and to see things another way. And that informs my work.
Did you have a false teacher or a true teacher?
No, not exactly. Because I started working so young. The two people that were my first director and musical director were in the Philippines, both trained in theater and music and drama here in New York. I think one of them went to Juilliard, and I don't know where the director went to, unfortunately, and it's a bad thing for me to not know. But they always stressed truth whenever teaching even the littlest kids. I was doing The King and I, and they stressed to each and every one, and they never condescended to the kids, and they always talked to us the same way they would speak to the grown-ups. And they said, always focus on truth. Whatever choices you make, you can't do something that a normal person wouldn't do. It's what you should always do. Try to find the truth. Always stress the truth. And also how to project your voice using, they said, use your diaphragm when you project your voice, blah, blah, you know, and also, they also emphasized teamwork in doing a show. We were a cast of, I don't know how many we were, and a lot of us were kids, and they said, a show is only as strong as its weakest link. So they stressed that everybody had to be strong and work together. So I learned to be a team player when I was 7 years old. And that's
it's
not, and it's work.
It's work. You're in Flower Drum Song now,
Yeah.
of course, and you did Miss Saigon, of course, before that, several times.
Yep, came back 3 times. Did it 3 times on Broadway.
Well, you
Fun,
can keep,
fun show.
You can keep it. Maybe you can do it, 10 or 12 years
Fun
from now.
show, you know, and I think it became more fun the older I got because
really?
the stronger my chords became. I mean, the first time I was doing it, I was like, I went home every night, soaked my feet in hot water and salt, and was just completely paranoid about my voice. And the producer would ask me to come back, and I'm like, I can't do it. I have ghosts with that show. Don't let me come back. Don't make me. And then there was a concert that they were having in London, and he asked me, could you please sing a couple of Kim songs for it? And I said, okay, I'll do this for you. If I like it, if I have fun doing it, then I will consider coming back to the show. And a few months later, I went back, and I had a blast. And I mean, it wasn't vocally as terrifying as it used to be. It was just, I was just having fun. I could go out at night afterwards and still have a voice the next day. And the cast was incredible, and everybody was just so embracing and welcoming. And I'm like, I'm having a blast. And I just had the best time.
John, when you got the script for Urinetown, here you are, a man who's played in Hamlet and All My Sons. Did you just say, this is for me, or you threw it in the West with the basket?
That's my personality. Actually, my manager, Jeff Berger, sent it to me, and he didn't tell me the title. And he didn't tell me it was about, I was in California. And he said, just read it. And I read this thing, and I got very upset by it, really. Not just angry, because some of the lyrics, you know, I didn't know what I was reading. And of course, I wasn't put off by the title so much, but the lyrics seemed like Moon, June, Spoon, and then it would throw in something about, instead of, you know, I love you from the depth of my heart, I love you from the depth of my muscular tissues, or something like that. What in the world is this all about? And then I was talking out loud to myself, and my wife heard me talk. I said, this is the worst. I said, this is got the worst taste of any script I've ever. Listen to this. I mean, there's a thing, a Patty Hearst thing they take off on it. It's got the worst lyrics I've ever heard. It's a Snuff the Girl. Can you believe that kind of song? And then I said, and listen to this. I said, this is supposed to be my big number. It's got a little bunny in the meadow, nibbling grass without a loud. I read this silly kind of lyric to her, and I looked over for confirmation of my wife, and she was laughing. And I said, you think that's funny? And she said, yeah, that's funny. And I said, well. And so I kind of calmed down. And I read the daggone thing. And then I called up my Jeff, and I said, listen, I don't know about this script. It's really kind of weird and wonderful and strange. I said, but what? And he said, talk to the director, John Rando. So I got on the telephone to John Rando, and we started talking, and I was fussing and saying that this won't work and that won't work, and I said, what is this about? And then the next thing I know, we're hooting and hollering and laughing, and I'm thinking, there's something here that I don't quite understand why I'm reacting this way to it. And he said, you know, we got some pretty good. He said, Jeff McCarthy's in it. I said, Jeff McCarthy? I said, that's interesting. That's Nancy Opal. Nancy Opal's in this? Ken Jennings? You mean the guy that was in Sweeney? Yeah. And then I said, well, so I talked to John, and then what was funny was that I decided to do it. Yeah, then I got the idea of what it was, and I thought this is going to be a fun, exciting kind of a trip, the kind of thing that I would have done 25 years ago. When I showed up at rehearsal, what was strange was that everybody's mouth dropped. I mean, I could see that everybody wondered, why in the hell what's he doing here? Well, anyway, I've been in ever since. So,
but the title didn't bother you at all?
The title didn't bother me. I probably didn't read it. I never read the title or the person who wrote it. So I don't remember names or faces or things like that. But I must say, some of the things that were in there really kind of, I couldn't figure it out. But it's turned out to be a wonderful experience. I must, you know, obviously I've been there with it for a year and a half, and I enjoy doing it.
It's still running, and
yeah.
everybody's going to say running. That's probably the word.
Yeah. You know, it's when I get together in a group like this, you know, I get envious of all the other people. Like, I'd like to be in the show with Edie, right? I'm not going to be the hero of Flower and Soul.
You gotta be Asian to be in our show.
He's a very good actor.
He can do anything.
I'd love you to share the stage with me.
That's what I'd like to do that too. I'm afraid I'd get wiped out on that one.
We were a one-woman show one time.
That's right. A one-woman show with a woman wouldn't leave much room for you, would it?
Have you ever been surprised, Stanley, by something they sent to you, a script that arrived?
No, because they don't send that many. So no. I'm just surprised when a script arrives at all.
But that's why you have to do your own.
Right,
You
that's
say
why I
that's
make
what
my own, yeah.
Another person who does his own.
Yeah.
Well, Edie, when you were told you'd have to take your clothes off in the first act, did you say, oh, great?
No, I can't say that was my response. But I got talked into it partially because they said, well, this is the way the play's done. It's written, and these two people get out of bed, and it's, everybody's seen that in movies and stuff. They get out of bed and they're fully clothed, and immediately the audience is gone. But they said, Kathy Bates, of course, did this back in 1987, and this is the way it's done. It's only recently that I found out that they were not naked.
No, I was going to say, I didn't remember that.
I got totally scammed on this guy. So, hey, I'm
we
running
were
around.
railroaded.
Did you know that this was...
I had no idea. I have no problem taking my clothes off. In
Clearly.
fact, I'll take them off right now. But no, we were told that was the way it was performed, and as written in the script.
And that if we were going to be professionals about it, we should stop saying, do I have to take my clothes off?
Right. We were very anxious, I have to say. We were very anxious. But the interesting thing is that you were the one who sort of picked the play at first.
Oh.
And then when I was approached, Edie thought, oh, God. Because you didn't know there was that much nudity.
I picked the play from my memory of it when I saw it with Kathy Bates 15 years ago. I just remember the event. I don't remember the performances too profoundly. I mean, not specifics. I just remembered it was about two people and love. And I left there with a beautiful, hopeful sort of feeling. And the whole ball started rolling, and then Stan jumped on board, and then I read the goddamn thing. And at first they said, they're making love and they're naked. And I thought, I don't even know this guy. And he's thinking, I just asked him to have sex with him every night for 8 times a week, and I haven't met him yet. Horrifying. Horrifying.
Well, you do sort of have the sheet you can work with a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Let's not get into logistics right now.
Melissa, were you surprised at what happened with Hairspray?
Oh my gosh, so surprised. I was just speaking before. I think I got involved in it over 2 years ago, and I just got involved in it because I loved the music. That was it. I just loved Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman's score, and I had to be involved in this. This is so good. It was the best music I ever heard, and I said, this is a cheesy off-Broadway show that no one ever sees. As long as I get to sing this music every night, oh my gosh, I have to do this. And I think everybody on board kind of was involved for the same reason. We all just kind of liked the music, and it was a fun story, and Harvey Fierstein joined in, and we were all like, oh, this is a lot of fun, and okay, this is fun.
Well, how did you hear the music? I mean, you
they
went
had
to them and said, I want to do this?
They had the first act written before the first workshop. And I actually I heard they were doing the show, and I was like, oh, it's going to be a musical. Oh, what's the music sound like? Heard the music and said, oh my gosh, I have to meet you. Who's doing this? I have to be involved in this. I don't care what I do in this. Like, it sounds so amazing. The music is so amazing, and there hasn't been a new score like this to me. It's like it's old school Broadway. It's just old Broadway, but it's new, So that to me, because I love the old school stuff. I love the Gypsy. Any Ethel Merman show, I grew up like, that's what I want to be. That's what I want to be, So then to get to, and then I'm hearing this music that was written, 2 years ago. That's got that same feel to it, and oh my gosh! And the first day I listened to it and was in the opening number, Good Morning Baltimore. Bawling that I'm like, I get to sing that every night, like just crying. Now I wake up every morning and go, oh no, I have to sing that every night. It's like, oh my gosh. After I get through that song, I'm like, okay, only 8 more to go. I was thinking, I hope someday I come back to the show in years from now and think, oh, this will be fun. No, I have no life. Everything she said, I was like, that's exactly what I'm going through right now. have no life. I have no friends. I moved back to New York, and I'm living in my apartment.
Online communication
And
is
my-
the most helpful
it is.
thing.
My
I only
answer
wish
machine
it
says,
existed
yeah.
when I did the
Yeah.
Saigon the first time.
My answer machine actually says.
You can come to our cast party.
What's this thing about soaking your feet in salt water? Do you know about that? Is that some
My feet
secret?
just hurt after that show. It just,
I never
I
heard
do the
that.
Epsom salts, yeah.
Oh, feet.
Well, I do the whole back.
Saigon
voice?
3-inch heels and a very on the maximum reg. You got
I
to
get to wear
dip
sneakers,
feet.
though. Like, I said, I'll wear whatever you want in the finale, but I'm wearing sneakers. I don't leave the stage through the whole. For Act 1, I don't leave the stage. Act 2, I leave the stage during one number. That's when Harvey and Dick Latessa sing their love song, and it says on the bathroom door right outside my dressing room, there's a bathroom, and it says that no one's allowed to use that bathroom during Timeless to Me, because that is the only time in the show that I can use the bathroom. So like, from the curtain open until Act 2, halfway through Act 2, and I mean, and I said to them, I'll wear whatever you want in the finale. I am wearing sneakers in that show. But still, my feet, I walk off that stage. The 2.5 hours on the stage, I don't feel a thing. Off stage, I'm like, oh, everything hurts, everything hurts. But, yeah.
You don't have this pleasure, except you play many characters on stage.
Yes.
But you don't have anybody around you here, so you have to give up
Well,
all the
I'm
energy.
playing, I'm doing everything, but what I always say that I'm not solo, I'm not alone, because I use my audience as if they are my scene partners. So as I'm conjuring everything up and everything, I'm using them. It's tough when they're sleeping and and, you know that kind of thing. But you know, I do try.
The anger.
And it does, and it feeds me. You know, all of a sudden I'm like, I go to somebody to sort of share something, and it's like, oh, sleeping. And then it, changes the way and that's how it works. And that keeps it alive for me, actually, every night.
We heard a guy snoring the other day.
Yes.
There was a nice loud snore.
And you said, where was his wife to nurture him?
I know. She
you
was
stop
asleep
the
too,
play?
probably.
Did you say wake up?
No, I don't do that anymore.
No,
Edie told me not to.
We had two people in the front
didn't wake
row.
He
him up?
talks to the audience, and I don't want to get into it.
I used to, not anymore.
Tell them to behave.
Well, the phones and all
The
that.
phones and all that.
People taking pictures.
Oh, and they tell you not
they
to.
do.
Oh yes, one night I came out from my curtain call and 4 women just stood up and said, ching, 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 ching.
Yeah. Harvey points at them and goes, like Harvey like points them out when the cameras come out.
This is a new thing.
Yeah.
I've never experienced this.
I actually got a videotape at the theater to my name, and it was like, love your biggest fan, and I'm like, oh my God, what's this gonna be? Like, so scared. And it was a complete videotape from the first row mezzanine. Still perfect, zoomed in. I mean, it was the best videotape coverage of the show, and I'm like,
And nobody, and they didn't have permission?
no.
And they
they
don't.
didn't.
And she didn't know that she shouldn't do it.
Right. And they were like, and here you go. I mean, I was psyched. I gave it to my understudy. I was like, here you go. It's going to be your best way to learn my part. And there you go. And then I got to send it to my niece, and they get to see it now. But, like, still, I couldn't believe it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Scary.
How does the audience affect you when you begin taking off your clothes?
How does they what?
How does the audience affect you as you begin taking off your clothes?
No, well, we start naked.
They
We
start
start
naked.
completely
They have to put 'em
naked.
on.
So it really is, it really is the one real sequence in the play where I do not know that they are there. I am completely. I divorce myself from the fact that I'm in the theater and I'm in a small room with her, and that's it. And once that's over, I still am shocked when I open my eyes after the act and I see those people out there. I still am, my heart still sort of, I did that thing I wasn't supposed to do.
I did it already once, too. I did.
Yeah, I didn't want to say anything.
Yeah.
My heart still jumps when I see that those people are sitting there watching us.
With binoculars.
With binoculars.
Oh
That's
my
right.
God.
Yeah, in the front row, too. which
Oh, we
I
had
think
them
is
at Saigon
insulting.
too. We had
Did
the
you know
girls.
that I did
you
Oh yeah, but
weren't
the girls
Yeah.
would fondly call those dirty old men who'd sit in the front row with binoculars.
Yeah.
Oh, the pervs are here.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Life
I
is
did
theater.
it.
Live theater. It's so
What is it,
glamorous,
John?
isn't it?
I was in, I think, probably the first Broadway show with frontal nudity with males. Most people didn't know that. I was in a play called Doubles. It was in a locker room thing, and Austin Pendleton and Tony Roberts and I. But all I can remember about it was I used to stand up stage as far as I could with a very convenient towel. Austin Pendleton couldn't wait to take his clothes off. And Tony Roberts came to me one day, and he said, I can't understand why I'm losing this line. I said, I'll tell you, I'll give you a clue. I said, if you can get Austin to drop his drawers one beat later, you'll get your life.
That's funny.
How do you audition for that?
Yes, did you have to take your clothes
Very
off?
carefully.
The part? No, they didn't say take your clothes off.
No.
No, we didn't actually get to the nudity stuff until like 2 nights before we opened.
Yeah, that's right. They probably didn't tell
We
you.
waited till the very end. Yeah. And then you just do it. And then once you do it, the first time was nerve-wracking.
I blacked out. I actually had no memory of that.
It was pretty
the
frightening.
first day.
It was pretty frightening. And then it's fine. After that, it really was not. It's not that hard.
Do you all have to audition? Do you have to audition, for example, now? Haven't people seen you enough so they don't say...
I didn't have to audition for Flower Drum. I was asked over a very nice burger at a very nice cafe by Bobby Longbottom if I wanted to do the show. So it was nice. And like, wow! it was
Are
really
auditions
sweet.
required? Otherwise, do you, Stanley, have
No,
to do
they
auditions?
came to. I auditioned for Edie's part. But I gave me this part. But I thought, well, fine.
And then you took your clothes off.
Right. No, I was. No, they came to me.
And do you do many auditions?
For yourself.
Always working.
Oh, no.
You didn't audition for yourself.
I write these plays so that I can get other plays. You see, no, not just for that reason, but it does help me get other plays. And since I've been writing these plays, I have not auditioned for the plays that I've gotten. I hate auditioning, but I will. If there's a role that I really, really want, I'm just going to do everything I can to get it. But it's just it's been a luxury in the theater not to, just to have them offered to me. It's been wonderful.
Why don't you like auditions?
Well, I've never managed to nail it.
Okay.
I think I realized when I learned how to audition, I would go in and do a perfectly professional audition, and it would be so boring, and it wouldn't work. You know, I mean, it just wouldn't. This is me in musicals. Then I realized, I said, okay, so when I'm Alfred and Dorothy Woodard's daughter, it doesn't work. So I threw her away, and I go in and just wing it. And with the musicals, and somehow someone remembers that, oh yeah, I think she can sing, or I think she can do this, and they just give me that.
They missed that.
Yeah, but I mean, in my play, I write about how I really did try to flub that audition. You know?
How? You tried?
Oh yes, it's a whole scene in the show, child.
Oh,
No, you have to come see it.
Oh, okay.
Oh yes, it's all about when I came to New York City, and I was in this hit Broadway musical, but I had never had any training to be in a hit Broadway musical. And there I was.
Training for that?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. So.
Melissa, I would think you would be good at auditions because you seem so courageous.
I'm great at auditions. I nail the auditions, and then on the set I'm like, no, what I did at the audition, that's exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm not going to do anything different. So, I always make the joke that and my manager even, he won't, if they just want to put me on tape and just do sides, I'll never do it because I won't get it because it has nothing to do with me walking in and doing sides and wowing you with this great interpretation of this scene. I'm like, if I don't meet the director, if I don't meet the producers and go in and just chat, and I'm like, this is who I am. I'm not, this isn't Tracy Turnblatt, but you get oh, she's going to be completely fine and confident with herself and her body and who she is, and she can do that. And I go in, I basically am a mess, and I'm like, hi, if you want me to read sides, let's talk for 20 minutes first, and I'll do everything but do my audition. And then once I get to the audition, it usually seems like they're like, oh, we don't even remember what she did at the audition, I think. It's more about who she is, who I am, and then it usually my experience has been every TV thing and every movie thing I've ever filmed has always been from a writer writing something for me and making it, or I'll go in to do one line and it turns out to be a recurring role, and and I always say I don't turn down.
This is great.
But I better go, girl. But with Tracy, but for Hairspray, I fought for 2 years for this role. They would not give me a contract. They would not close the deal. They wouldn't even say yes or no. They basically were like, my last reading, our fourth reading we did, my fourth reading in 2 years, came in. It was December 8th of this past year. And they went, the entire production staff flew to Baltimore to have their big nationwide search for Tracy Turnblad. And there I was, singing my heart out in the rehearsal hall going, I'm Tracy Turnblad, and so, and like, and half of me, like, during the process, like, after the second workshop, I was like, well, either give it to me or not, forget it. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh no, like, that's fine. And for me, it actually, I never would have grown so much in this role had it not been, had they just given it to me May of 2000, I'm not being bitter, I know exactly the dates. Not given it to me, had they just said to me, this is your role, I never would have found a voice teacher to go, how can I make this work? I never would have gone to, I didn't go to dance because I was like, you know what, Tracy's not a dancer. She's more like, it's more aerobic, it's more athletic, it's more about that. It's more about her spirit than it is about her, technique. So, I started doing aerobics and started running on the treadmill with my songs. And then, like, the acting, the scene work that was going to come once I met the other actors, because for me, it's never about what I do. It's about, like, I am so blessed with such a wonderful ensemble, because to me, it doesn't matter. Like, I envy. I could never do what you do. Like, that's just, I'm always about whatever someone else gives me, I'll give them back. So, so I've done a lot of bad, cheesy sitcoms because I've had a lot of cheesiness coming at me, so I'll be right back at it. But I had to fight really, 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 really hard for this role. And, I mean, even all through Seattle or out of town, I mean, everybody was really worried and really nervous, and that would make me really worried and nervous. But it just made me, and then I got a review in, like, Variety that said, like, oh, well, she's not quite the dancer you want her to be. And in Seattle, I got that review. And then that was it. Then it was, like, all about me and Michelle Lynch, who was our, like, Jerry Mitchell's assistant. And it was, like, 8 hours a day. I was like, you are going to make sure I know every dance better than everybody on this stage. Even when I'm dancing in my room to the TV, I'm like, I'm going to know it better than the dancers down there so that nobody ever comments on my dancing again. So then I was so glad that then I was like, I don't care now if they say I can't sing and they say I can't act, as long as they say I can dance. So I was so angry about that. So for me, because I had to work so much harder for it, I mean, I never expected the show to be the hit that it became. Nobody involved it, and I think that that's why it is such a wonderful show, because no one on stage expected it, so we're all such a close family. I mean, I don't look out at the audience except during Baltimore, that's it. And after that, I don't think I face front even once, because there's so much going on, and I have moments with every ensemble person, and everybody's so important in our show that it's so great, and I'm so glad that it all happened for everybody with our show.
Edie, are you always comfortable on stage and comfortable in auditions?
No, I hate auditioning. I really hate it. I was never good at it, I don't think. There's something about having to prove yourself to someone that seems to go against everything that we do, instinctively as an actor. Like somebody was just saying about when people offer you a role, there's something so different about the experience of working on that thing, because you walk onto the set or into the theater, rehearsal hall, knowing they wanted you. There's something about you that they already trust you. So all that stuff is out of the way. You can just go in and start the work, and you're clearly all there for the same reason, to make the story happen, and they think you're the best person to have that, to make that happen. Auditions, I'm not a good salesperson, you know what I mean? And I've gotten so bad about it now. I'm like, you know what? You don't want me? That's fine. I'll go home and sleep. You know what I mean? I'm just too tired to fight for stuff anymore. So.
Is it shyness? Is that a component of it, or is it?
No, I don't think it is.
Do you get angry? I think a lot of actors. I know myself, and I get angry having to audition.
I got humbled once.
And it comes through in the audition.
I got humbled
I'm
once.
resented.
It was an interesting experience.
But why do you get angry?
Anger, I think, is for me. It was always a kind of a shield. And I felt better about myself if I could be pissed off at the audience.
Yeah, that's
Producers,
true.
nothing. It's a terrible, terrible experience auditioning.
Yeah.
And I hear these stories, and I've been through all of these things.
Oh my
Exactly
God.
the same way. You know, and you're better off when you're free and relaxed. And all, but how do you get free and relaxed when people are out there judging you? How do
Well,
you
I also think that so many directors, I've had terrible experiences auditioning, and I was some very fine experiences auditioning with very nice directors, but I hate it. If I never had to do it again, and I hope that I pray to God I don't have to do it again.
It's hard.
It's awful.
It's
but
so
a lot of
hard.
directors don't know how to deal with actors in an audition, and I think that really is the problem. That they really don't know how to run an audition. And when I started directing, one of the things that I was very important to me was to make actors feel comfortable in auditions, to talk to them first, to have somebody not do a scene, even if the guy was completely wrong for the part or really bad. I would have them do it more than just once. I would have them do it 2 or 3 times, because I might learn something and they might learn something. I might say, oh, you know what, I see why he made that choice the first time, or whatever. My goal was to make those people feel as comfortable as possible, because so many people in my life had made me feel so terribly uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you have to audition actors. I would prefer not to audition actors, but you have to, because you really need to see. A director isn't sure, but if a director isn't sure, the actor has to know why the director isn't sure. And that is the problem. Directors don't make that clear, and that's why it's so excruciating.
Or maybe
You
they
know,
don't
when
know
I
what they
give
want.
advice to, like I have a son who's an actor, and I try to give him advice, which he never follows, but we do talk about it anyway. But the one thing that I think, if I could had it to do over again, would be to try to be myself, because everybody wins. If you go in there and what most actors have to do is go in there and try to be what they think the producer wants.
Exactly. That's
And
the pit.
Everybody loses in that situation. But if you go in and you're just absolutely as honest as you probably, I heard you say that, didn't you say it?
Yeah.
And just as if you then the director knows more when he gets through, even if he doesn't want to use you. It's wonderful that Stanley does what he does, because it's
We can all be so lucky, though. Yeah.
And with me, I try to show, when I go into an audition, I do try to show up as I am, and then I do the work, and I feel like if they don't want me for this part, they know who I am.
Right.
So they can call me back, this human being back again, and for something else. But if I just go in as these 2 pages that they gave me, then I'm really messed up. And just in case I blow that, and
What's so frustrating sometimes too, though, as an actress, I'll go in and do my me, and then read the scene, and then they're like, "Thank you," and you leave, and then you'll get feedback that they're like, "Oh, they wanted to go a different way," and you're like, "Well, why didn't they just tell me that?" Because so many times, they'll say, "Well, we wanted her a lot quieter or shy." I'm like, well. Just because I'm such a big mouth doesn't mean I can't be timid and shy.
But that's the problem. That's what I
Right.
was saying, is that they don't know how to
Right.
do it. They
Right.
don't know how. They don't say, "Could you try it this way?
Right.
Could you try this? Could you try that?" And you see what facility the person has, and also you're discovering maybe what you need to find for the role as a director.
Because you just make your own choices as an actress. You're like, oh, this is how I read it.
Just tell me what to do.
And sometimes you don't even get the whole script, or you don't get how everyone's going to react.
The problem
towards
is
you.
directors
conjured
then
up out of
continue
the
to
air.
do that after they've hired you. If they
Yeah.
don't tell you what
Yes, I know. It's
Well, I have a question I want to ask people. When you do get a script and you have it, how do you judge whether to do the script or not? Now you were very honest, and I believe that you remembered something, and then you decided to read it after Stanley took the job, and you knew you were going to have to do it. Then you read it. I've done that too. I've gotten into a lot of trouble that way. But one of the things, how do you figure out what you want to do, or whether a script works, or what you want to do with it? That's what's interesting. I never have been able to figure it out.
If it hits me on a visceral level, when George C. Wolfe sent me Susan Laurie Parks' In the Blood. And I was in La Jolla at the time doing a play, and I went to this beautiful place to read this incredibly intense play out in the sunshine at the beach, and I'm reading, and I'm like looking at this, and I'm this is ridiculous. If George thinks I'm going to do this, they're crazy. This is wild. And I closed it up. I finished it. I had to get to the theater. It was coming on half hour. I'm driving down this highway, and all of a sudden something happened to me where I felt like I was having a panic attack. And I, you know, like, something is going on really wrong and I don't know what's happening. And I pulled over and had this major catharsis that was postponed as, you know, from when I was reading this play. And then I got back in the car after I controlled myself, went straight to the theater, called George and said, I have to do it. Because it was scary, it was challenging, it was a reach. It was such a reach. And the fact that they thought that I could make that reach. And I saw, yes, this is the beginning of this play. Yes, I don't know if we're going to really have to do some work on this play, but that's why, that's what, it's not perfect here right now, but I want to work on this thing because it's so powerful. I want to do this. It's a reach. And that's what I go after. You know, I love that reach.
Do you like it when there are stage directions in a script so that says what you're supposed to do, or do you like the scripts without any direction?
I think they're important, and I think that there's no harm in trying them. And then if it feels right, then do it. Otherwise, get rid of it.
You don't feel that you are obliged to do it
God,
because they say
no,
do
absolutely
something.
not. No.
What's more important than the text or the director? John, for example.
I have to answer that.
No, Lea will answer it.
Oh, I will answer it. I guess ultimately, well, everybody might have a different take on it, but I think the material has to lead you somewhere. Case in point, let me see. There was all of this material for Flower Drum Song, and we got rewrites upon rewrites, and thank goodness David was in the room with us every single day, you know, just ready to pen out a different line or a different way of delivering something, even though it means the same thing. And that's pretty much our map. We've got a map, okay. Then you've got navigator, you've got the director to tell you which way, to help you which way you can, you know, try going. So yeah, you got to have a good script too. It's really helpful if it is good.
Can the director change enough to make something a hit and make it good? The material isn't actually there.
They can try.
You can try.
You can try,
Well,
but
been
I
directing.
think,
I
I think if the material isn't, if you don't have good material,
You
it's just
can't.
it ain't gonna work.
You can't pull it together,
I don't
so
think
it doesn't
so.
matter who the director is.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Because I think a good script will ultimately direct itself, and then everybody will kind of have a similar thought into how a scene will be done, and you all can kind of ride the same ride, and you're all feeling kind of, it's kind of like a, I don't know, some psychic moment of some sort, and you just all kind of, when you finish with the scene work, you're all like, whoa, was that a ride or what? It's fun.
You know, the reason why I asked the question is because over a period of my life, I've had so many different experiences with different roles. And I remember when they asked me to audition for 1776, I wanted to do the John Adams part. And but they kept asking me to do the Rutledge part. And I turned down the Rutledge because Rutledge was the governor from South Carolina, and I didn't want to play a Southerner. I had never played a Southerner, and instead of I'd always played Englishman or something to hide my identity. And then a year later, I'd been doing stuff in the regions, and I called my agent and I said, I want to do something. I don't give a damn what it is. I want to stay in New York. And they said, well, you know, they're replacing the Rutledge character in 1776. I said, sure, I'll do it. I knew I'd get it. I knew that. But my attitude about it was so strange and negative. And yet I knew, after all these years, I knew that there was something that I was supposed to do. I knew it was an area that I was supposed to break open. It's like the same 30 years later, when they asked me to do All My Sons. I had been in a production in 1947, 50 years earlier, of All My Sons, played the neighbor next door in college. And I was very reluctant to do it for a totally different reason. And I didn't realize it, but I was afraid to play that part because I didn't like that guy. And the Rutledge was so easy for me, and I didn't want to do it. But it was very important for me, and it's been making me wonder. Now I'm looking back over years that I can, you know, but I'm wondering about young people. How do they make this? It's strange that you don't know. And I wonder, how do you
you
how do
don't
you
have
find
to
out
like
what
the
Like
character.
you had an epiphany. You had to pull over the side of the road. There's not much doubt that's the role you're supposed to do. But
I have a question.
sometimes you don't know.
The question.
Oh, I have a question. It's been in my experience, and it's kind of worked like in parallel with my own personal life, that I get a script or I get offered a part, and for some reason it directly reflects on what's happening in my life. I just want to know if that's happened to anybody else too. Like it comes at the right time in your life, and it serves as an outlet or a channel for you to work through whatever's going on in your life.
Yeah, I think you choose things sometimes unconsciously for that reason.
I think that's probably true.
That is what it is, I
And
think.
even when you're scared or when you're disdainful, or then you ought to take a second look, just like you did. See, somebody else told you, God told you, or whatever it was. But
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting point, that we don't have control all the time over of the best things in us. See, I work from the outside. I don't know even which, but inside out.
Inside out and outside in.
I think that's
But
sushi.
You're the British. You're in the British
I'm
side.
Now I'm hungry. Thanks a lot.
what you see is what you get. No, but the truth is, probably I don't. There's something that works, and it's working inside for me anyway. So it's interesting to me.
Are you inside out or outside in?
It depends.
You can go both ways.
That first
even
scene,
know
he's
the
working from the
difference.
outside.
The British, I think. The British have
In the news there.
I knew. I've never actually stood, so I don't know what it is.
He doesn't have to do anything in that.
No,
first scene. It works.
don't touch it. If it's working, don't touch it.
We talked
Actually,
about
just don't
theater
touch it.
performances.
I don't want to know.
John tells me that he only
Yes.
does how many performances a week?
Oh, I'm not supposed to tell people that. I only do 6 now. Totally unprofessional. Listen,
I think that's shocking.
I think it's
see what I mean? It's one of the things about
I think 8 a week is cruel.
8 a week is
Cruel.
shocking.
It's
not too
never
bad. It's not
so
too bad if you want
civilized
you're used
to
to
do
it.
that.
And you have to film as
Edie
well.
and I are-
mean, are you
Wouldn't-
finished?
no, this is
you're
my
not finished.
hiatus, so
okay,
I'm not
your
on
hiatus
film right
is 8 shows.
How many performances a week?
8.
8. Okay, 8,
I do 7,
7. You get one off.
but I have a 2-hour
Well, I was the
show.
only one in the show for a year who didn't miss.
You get points for that.
I did miss, but my wife had to go to the hospital. That's when I missed. The only time that in a year. So I mean, I did my time.
What-
Trust me now.
What makes the difference? All through the years, you did 8 shows a week. Why now do
Well,
you
I'll
think?
tell you what the difference is for me. It's when I remember when I came into the business, 8 shows a week with a Wednesday matinee and a Saturday, the matinees on the 4 on the weekend. That I could handle. What was really tough is when they switched to 5 on the weekend.
Yeah. That's
So
right.
then you only have Monday to recuperate from 5 shows, bam, 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 bam. That, and then come back on Tuesday. By Tuesday, you're still aching, and you get it makes it so difficult with that 5 thing, but it's good for the producers, for the money and everything, and the people coming into town. I can usually handle that Wednesday, if you have that Wednesday matinee. It's not as bad, but the 5.
Well, I'll tell you the reason. That's exactly the reason, because we were on that same schedule. The reason, Isabel, is that I was having trouble with a hip flexor, because this is a very dangerous show. We're with the walking wounded. We've got people with broken feet and them perform all the time. But I couldn't get well. After a year and a half, it'd be like playing baseball for an entire season and not having 3 months off. You don't get any time off in actors. Don't get time off. Very interesting. This makes no sense at all. But when I was doing Man of La Mancha, I heard about a production that was being done. The stage manager wanted to open a production in Spain of Man of La Mancha, and I was playing Kylie's alternate at the time. Kylie wasn't doing the matinees, and I was doing the matinees for him. They went over there, and the director, the stage manager came out and said, "Do you know that they do 7 days a week over there? And they do a matinee every performance, and there are no understudies."
Ouch.
What? How do you figure that? How do you figure it? All I can say is that
No union. No union.
well, that's it. But that's true, and that's in Spain. That's the way they do it. I guarantee you, they don't get the same kind of production that they would.
Well, yeah.
if
Of course
they were,
not, yeah.
I mean, if you ask a pitcher in baseball to pitch every day, or an opera singer to sing every day, they can't do it.
Oh, I think that's a different thing. I think working the theater and doing your performances 8 times a week should be what your goal is.
That's because you're thinking like a producer. I'm telling you. I have to do it. And I've done it for 45 years, and I've done nothing but 8 performances. And I'm telling you, I did it because if they wanted me, the only reason I could get it, if you want to know the honest truth, is I'd walk away. It didn't make any difference to me. I don't have to work. And I would simply leave. That's the arrogant John Cullum talking like that. They can get somebody else to do the role.
And the level of the work has changed, too.
I enjoy doing that show.
People are doing amazing things. I mean, musicals are almost competing with movies. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on that seems like, it's just like the level of the work has gotten so high, the risk of injury, and I remember at one point we were doing something, they gave us hazard pay, and you can get hazard pay because you can hurt yourself in these rakes and these things, and
rakes.
You can hurt yourself. You go into the theater. I'm in the theater right now. It's freezing cold for some reason. It's freezing cold.
Oh my God!
So I start the show being very pleasant. And then in the middle of everything, I start these kicks. And now my warm-up is worn off, so I'm doing these kicks, and my hams are like, ning, 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 it's just like, whoa. And then you don't have time to heal those hams. How do you heal your hamstrings? You have to stop stretching them for 2 weeks. But you keep doing it in the cold every night. People have to take into consideration that actors are human beings, and we are working with everything
I asked
have.
the stage manager one night doing our show, and it's like, okay, why is it so cold? It's freezing. I've got practically a ski suit costume on, and I'm still freezing. Why? Oh, because the audience needs to be...
So they don't go to sleep.
It's like... and you consider that we kind of have to do this every day?
Every single night. Every night. From opening night, we have an argument. I think it's too cold. He thinks it's too hot. So there's the poor stage management, and they will turn off the air vents for us, and they'll turn them right back on for him. So I'm out there on stage, and I'm like looking at him like, I am so cold, and he's dripping with sweat. I know, that's why I don't understand. And I literally have goosebumps on my arms, and I'm like, some of the ensemble girls have now asked to have like sweaters put into their costumes because they're just so cold. And so then there's an air vent where one of my quick changes is.
Can't have like a personal one wherever he walks and it's just on him?
It is the two of us every night. We have that same argument every night. He's like, you must be warm. You must be happy tonight, Cookie. And I'm like, I know. I'm going. I knew. Then the next night, I know I'm going to be freezing cold. But
you'll get your revenge in the summertime.
Every single night we fight about the weather, the cold
my gosh.
and hot. But I unfortunately wore a scarf during rehearsal in the 80 degrees weather outside. So like my say has nothing anymore because they're all like, oh, she's always cold. She's always cold. So then I'll be like poking on everyone going, go complain. Isn't it cold? Isn't it cold? Isn't it cold? So yeah.
It's cold now. It's just cold and wet and icky. It's just yucky, and it's not the nicest weather to sing in because you just... Wednesday matinee is the hardest thing, and I'm just praying, dear God, no phlegm. Not right now. I don't need it right now. I'm standing there trying to be the picture of serenity with my mouse suit and a drum. And I'm looking out into the night, and I'm like, dear God. And I can feel it creeping up slowly, half inch by half inch.
You have to finesse the phlegm.
And I'm like, 100 million miracles.
It's true.
And the thing is, once that H comes out, and I feel like, oh, God.
Altoids the phlegm.
Ricola.
Altoids are good.
I'm going to sit in the back row when I see you.
I've
So what do you do?
Every time I run off stage, my dresser hands me an Altoid and a chug of water, and because I have just like a hair change, and like the music is literally just waiting for me to come back, and I just chew on Altoids just to keep the phlegm down.
Oh my God.
I suppose none of you drink milk. Is that true? Or is it say
No
that's
dairy.
supposed to cheese, no dairy? Or
I do.
Lots of
Do
water.
bother me
Doesn't
too
matter, so
much.
it's
Lots of water.
A lot of water.
Yeah, because it keeps everything.
Oh, I have to set the record straight here, though. When I go into another show, I'll be doing 8 shows again. And if,
There you go.
And if I go into another show, I'll
that
just
wire up. You won't
trying
hear what
to
you're saying.
I'm nervous. Well, Edie and I are freezing over here.
I wore a jacket. I had a feeling.
I have my scarf out.
Is it more competitive, do you think? Well, you have had a great deal of experience in this. Is the business more competitive than it used to be, do you think?
Well, I don't know how people survive. I don't even know, when When I was here, and I know it doesn't fit anymore, but when I got to New York, I stayed in a room and paid $6 a week. It was big enough to, I mean, it was so small, I did everything in this little room. I lived on a little cot, and I put the clothes, hung them on the side of the wall, and I peed in the sink, and washed my hands and shaved, and everything. It was all, I didn't have to move, because I couldn't move. But at the same time.
Urinetown.
Urinetown, listen. So that's the kind of experience. Why would I be embarrassed about Urinetown? But the point is, people, the first place that I had was $55, a cold water flat, and that would be $800 today. And they're usually, most actors nowadays have to live with somebody else. I don't know how young actors do it. I really don't know how they manage to do it. Probably a lot of them stay out in California.
I moved to LA and started doing some film and TV, and that allows me, I can afford now to come back and do a play here. That's how I've been doing it.
I did Grease on Broadway. I was doing one of the lead roles in a Broadway show, and I was living with 4 people. And I was a lead in a hit Broadway show. Right. And I was living with 4 people because I couldn't pay my, and our rent wasn't that much, you know, but I mean, it was so much in your salary. And then I also moved to LA and made residuals.
I love LA.
And now,
just like money meant.
And I would have done Hairspray for nothing.
So you have to love this.
Yeah.
This has got to be
you have to.
You isn't for anything else.
Is
Yes,
really
that's
big
the only
here.
reason why actors should do it. Is because they really love it.
That's the only thing that's going to keep you doing it.
That's right.
Because I had a teacher, Dr. Bella Itkin in Chicago. She said, if there's anything else that you can do, you will find yourself doing it.
Yeah.
So, you know.
You have to love it.
It's your passion that keeps you here and working for a little bit of money. And
well, you've managed to do a little of everything, so you've spread it out because you can write, direct, act. Maybe is that easier? Rather than saying, I'm just going to be an actor?
It is. I mean, it makes life more varied, which I think is good. And I mean, if you loved, and I love doing all those things, and like you say, if you love doing them, then you have to do them. There came a point in my career where I had to direct and write. I just had to, and I didn't know why I did necessarily. I just had to do it, so I did it. I made it sound so easy, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah, so
I just did it.
but I never would have written.
And I had to do it well.
I had to do it well, and I did.
And you did. They're modest, too. Yes.
I wrote 3 solo plays, but I never would have written any plays if I had work if I had work here that fulfilled me. You know, I had lots of work. I was always working, but I just needed work that fulfilled me as an artist as I grew. And when I realized that some of my best work was in class, you know, then I thought, well, what am I doing? I cannot keep complaining about this. I cannot keep complaining. I have to do something, even if I just create. And I created the first play not to make it a big play and bring it to New York or whatever. I just created it so I could have something to exercise my instrument with.
How did you learn to do that? Where did you learn writing?
I'm a storyteller. I come from storytellers. And I use that oral tradition, that storytelling thing, in order to tell my stories. I tell my play for like a year before I even write it down, so theaters know what it's going to be. It takes me 2 weeks to write it down after I've told it for a year and a half. But I tell it. I go places, I walk down. I'm writing my new play now. I'm writing it, has 6 characters, and I'm writing it as I walk to work every day. You know, just talking to myself and talking to people and going to dinner and taking hikes. Because my whole thing is that I am an actor, and I'm using my instrument to write this evening of theater. That's what I do.
Awesome. Edie, what about working in the Sopranos and the theater?
Shall I?
You.
Are we?
You.
What about working in Sopranos in the theater? Well, they're not at the same time. Sopranos is done. Now I do the play, and then as soon as we close the play, I go back to Sopranos.
When do you do the Sopranos? Where do you do them?
In Queens, mostly. Silver Cup Studios, over the 59th Street.
So that you can work in the theater and do that as well.
You told me you liked doing both of them.
I do. They're completely different.
You must.
But I love them. I love
We're
them
going to
both.
continue on this in a moment, but first, we have to take a short break, and Isabel Stevenson is going to tell us some more about the American Theater Wing.
Before we get back to the American Theater Wing Working the Theater Seminar on Performance, I would like to remind you that these seminars only one of the many year-round programs that the Wing undertakes. You are probably familiar with the American Theatre Wing's Tony Awards, given for achievement of excellence in the Broadway theater. We also have important grants program, providing aid to off and off-Broadway theaters. We now offer 6 different scholarships for students to pursue studies in the theater arts. We have an expanded career guide program for beginning professionals. As a long-established charity, dating back from World War I and again in World War II, when we operate our famous stage door canteens, all of our programs are designed to reward and promote excellence in the theater, to introduce young people and their families to theater and the magic it unfolds. We take pride in the work we do and are grateful to our members and everyone whose contributions help make possible the dynamic programs of the American Theatre Wing. We are proud to be a part of this exciting industry as we continue to provide services to the theater and to the community. And so now, let's return to our panel on performance and our moderator, Pia Lindstrom. Pia?
Well, we are now going to hear some questions from the audience. And our first question, I believe, is going to be directed to Edie Falco.
Hi, my name is Heather Lind. I was curious about your transition from Broadway to television. I understand you had to make a choice between Sideman on Broadway and The Sopranos. I was just curious about that.
Yeah. That was really rough, actually. Those were very rough days to not be able to have been doing Sideman for almost 4 years at that point in various incarnations. And then once it actually got to Broadway, I wasn't able to follow it there because I was under contract to Sopranos. It was not a decision I had anything to do with. It was contractual. I had people telling me to walk out of the Sopranos contract. Oh, just go and do Sideman on Broadway, which I think at this point would have been a big mistake. So I'm glad it worked out the way it did. But these decisions are often made for you according to schedules and all that kind of stuff. So. Mm-hmm.
And we have another question now coming from this young man.
Hi, I'm Andy Donald, and my question is for the panel. I was just wondering how you guys maintain the freshness and spontaneity of a performance over 8 shows a week, and then, especially in the case of Mr. Cullum, how you do it over a year, and a half, and when is it time to leave a show?
That's your question.
Well, it's extremely difficult for me to keep up for 8 performances right now because I'm only doing 6. And believe me, those 2 performances I'm not doing are very hard to keep my concentration on the show. But the company that I'm in, I like doing this show, and I've done long runs in the past, and it's just it's I guess a technique that you develop over the years. If you really like what you're doing and you're proud of what you're doing, you're not gonna want to do a bad show. So you figure ways to keep fresh. And even though I'm not a method actor, I do use kind of my own feelings to make the show slightly different all the time. And so there's a certain variety. What might not be make much difference to anybody except me and maybe a couple of people on the stage who'd like to kill me. But it helps keep the performance fresh because I do a little something different in the long run all the time. And you go through periods, I'm sure. I get weeklies, I get monthlies. And I go through a bad period about every 3 months, and then I go through a bad period every 6 months. And you get over them, and they don't last too long. You just fight against them. I'm sure, I'd rather hear what some of these other people have to say about it.
Edie, how do you
said.
keep it fresh?
Oh, that's
Okay, let's move right along.
All right, moving right along to doing 8 shows a week. I also did the 6-show-a-week schedule in Saigon, but now I'm doing 8. And it's not easy. It really isn't, because there's a temptation to let boredom set in and to just fall into the comfort zone of just doing the exact same thing just to get through that show and then to get through the next one if you have one that night, if you're doing a matinee. But sometimes what usually helps me is to leave work at work. And when I go home, do stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with work, so that when I do get there, it just hits me, and it's like, oh, okay, this is going to be a different thing every day. And then because I don't think about work the whole day until I get to the theater, everything just kind of happens when you're on stage, and especially when understudies start going on, because they are different people. You can't do the same thing, and you obviously have to react the way they would read a line or throw a line at you. And if say the person that you're normally performing with throws fastballs or fastball, a curve, or a certain sequence, they might throw it a different way. So you have to learn to catch it in a different way too.
Do you have any tricks to keep it fresh?
Well, I think that it's. Yeah, I try to make Edie laugh on stage.
Oh, it's really great. It's really
I'm incredibly professional. Never go. No, I think that the key. I think the key thing is, like John said, you are a different person every day. You come and you bring whatever your feelings are that day. They can't help sort of but infuse that performance, I think. But I think it's very much about always talking to the other actor, and really listening to the other actor. And if both of those things are happening, it will be different every time. It can't help but be different every time. And also the audience is different. The audience being, in our play, is the third character. So, like you said, there's a second character. That because the audience is different, your performance is going to be different. You're going to modulate that performance sometimes to an audience. You feel an audience is reticent, you're going to maybe take things a little more slowly and maybe bring them in and then take them where you want to go. And sometimes they'll so you don't know ultimately who's leading the performance, the audience or the performer necessarily. So I think for that reason, because it is live, it's different. It can't help but be different every time.
Yes, if you're listening. But I know I agree with everything everyone said, but in addition to that, I have a warm-up that I do every evening. I get to the theater an hour and a half before the show, and I start this. There are levels to my warm-up, and they change as the play goes on, and according to what I need to make it fresh and to get me to performance level by 8 o'clock.
Well, give us an example of one thing that you might do.
I don't want to get specific about it because it changes. But I mean, there are vocal warm-ups, there are physical, there are exercises that I do that freshen images in and get my sensory thing happening, and
Meditation?
No. No, that doesn't.
That doesn't work.
That doesn't. But I do things for relaxation. I do things for resting up as opposed to resting. So that sort of helps. But in general, for me, it's what Stanley said about that listening and really, if you listen every night, it's different.
Well, I get to kiss Matthew Morrison all night long, so it stays fresh for me. And we just keep kissing, and then it started off with 1 kiss a show, and now we're up to 8 kisses. So I'm hoping by the end that that's really what keeps it fresh, and I look forward to that part. So that's pretty much all I look forward to. Lots of kissing. So, but I'm actually I'm scared. I don't want to say scarily, but I'm very consistent in my show, especially with Hairspray, because I'm more of the engine of the show, where it's everybody's funny around me and there's all this craziness around me, and I'm like, okay, but here's the line you need to hear, and this is going to carry this story. So my reaction time and my keeping it fresh is really just listening to what the other actors are doing and then waiting for the audience to stop laughing at them and continue on with the next line. So for me, I try to stay very consistent and very almost grounded in rock form, almost so that they can all play around me, but we still have where the show's going. So I've never had that position before in a show, because I'm so much more of a wacky sidekick, and I'm so much more of the best friend. So that was the scariest part of this show for me, was everyone's going to be coming up to you. So at this point now, you've got to keep the train going and keep the motion going, and if your energy's down, so I'm really good about really being consistent, but it's so much about the audience. If they're not laughing at the first 10 jokes in the show, you need to don't wait for those laughs, don't hold, and people get into rhythms of waiting. They know, oh, Harvey's going to say something really funny here, so everybody waits and does their freezes, and I'm like, no, there isn't going to be a laugh. They didn't laugh yet. So you got to really, really, really be focused to the audience and how they're giving you. And I mean, matinee audiences some days are younger audiences. For our show, it's more kids or older people where you're like, oh, they're going to get this joke, so you got to, you're going to wait longer, or just the audience's energy, you just really, I find that's so much part of the show. So because of that, every night it is so different, figuring in them out.
I think that's more of a problem in a long-run show than anything else. Is the fact that even people that have done a lot of theater have a tendency to come off after the first moment in the show, if they've been in the show for a while, and they decide that the audience is no good.
Yes. Oh, that is so
that is
hard.
the worst thing. That's the hardest thing to fight against. I say there's somebody out there that's going to, you better play to, because it's going to come back and bite you in the butt. You don't do a good performance. You have to, that's the toughest thing, is to do a good show when you think the audience is not good enough for you. And that happens in the long run. You've got to constantly fight against that, and you should never let down. And I won't do that. I've learned that the hard way. What?
Sorry, go on.
Go on. I want to hear what you have to say about it.
I kind of enjoy sometimes when the audience isn't very active, like yesterday's matinee, for example.
They were
dead.
There was a dead audience.
There was actually a point where a huge laugh comes at one point. Stan said his line. There was absolutely no laugh, and he looked at me and went. And I was like, I don't remember you ever making that face before. And the other run. But something happens where the play becomes mine again. I'm like, all right, they can join us, or clearly they're not going to, or whatever. So now I can actually.
Then you really just do it for
you. Just have a very full emotional experience of this play for myself.
That's what I do to fight against it, is to play. And it is true. I like yesterday's performance, the same for me. Although, I didn't do the matinee.
How many shows a week do you do?
I don't do any of them. I'm just here as a guest. This is not being broadcast.
We have another question here from this young man.
Hi, my name is Graham Skipper. My question is for the panel. I was wondering what your views are on the amplification of shows.
Sound. Microphones.
Okay. I love my sound guys. I love my union. I'm not going to discuss sound at all today.
Anybody here want to take it on? Yes.
I'll do it. There are two schools of thought, and we have people in our theater who just disdain having to wear a microphone and absolutely hate being amplified, saying that I've trained for so long to learn how to amplify with my own body. I should be allowed to do it. And my school of thought is this: winter, flu season, microphone, best friend. There are a lot of different ways of doing it.
Eastern philosophy here.
And I chant this with candles in front of me with my legs crossed. But in all seriousness, how do you guys hide microphones? But I guess you don't. Don't No, I guess there's, but I mean, when you do, especially when you're doing a musical, and you have the orchestra, and even without amplification, they can really overpower you. You'd better be Ethel Merman, or you won't be heard without amplification. And she was one of these rare people that I've been told that could just fill a house with her voice and with her presence without a microphone. And I'm like, how did she do it? I mean, how can I do it? I'm 5'3". I don't know how I'm going to be able to reach the back of the house without amplification. But in Saigon, when we did it in London, and the house was 2,250 people, or is it 2,550 people? But it was one of the biggest houses in London, and because of the way they were built, those old houses, they've got the best acoustics. So they really minimized the amount of amplification that they gave us to the point where you could feel like you were singing in a vacuum. So you didn't know necessarily if you were in tune or not. So my thing is, amplification's okay if it helps, to reach the back of the house, but you have to work to get something out, because I also disdain it when an actor is over amplified, because you might as well just put a CD on and have them lip sync on stage, and that's not theater, and that's cheating an audience for me to do it that way, because they expect that live performance coming from the stage, and they want to hear it like it's coming from the stage, not from a speaker all the way in the back.
Any other thoughts on mics?
Well, I agree. I think that the technique of miking people has gotten a lot better. It's interesting to me that we've always had the equipment on Broadway, but we haven't had the operators that could really use it. Like the rock stars were the ones that learned how to use sound much better than we did. I go back to when I would work with an actress who was wearing what they called in those days a Vega. Is that what they used to call them? Vega mics. Chest mic, and I would play from the front mics. So I would sing like this, and then when I talk, I would sing like this. I did private lives. I shouldn't tell this story.
Oh, tell it.
I did private lives with Burton and Taylor, and I had scenes with Elizabeth Taylor. Nobody knew I was on stage at the time. But we played the Opera House in Washington, this enormous house, and it was extraordinary because when you're talking, because they had to mic her so loudly, and she came out beautifully, and I would go, it was just ringing off the walls. So, but they've gotten a lot better with using mics, and you have to join them now.
I think the thing to remember also is, I've never done a musical and never will do one. You hope I never do one.
We've got a place for you.
Maybe I'll just do your matinee.
Naked.
I think, like with our play, with a straight play, I think that we're in an old house. We're in the Belasco, which is 1907, and the acoustics are very, very good. But the problem is that plays are very different now from the way they were in 1907, and acting is very different now. Acting is very naturalistic, and a lot of our play is, a lot of it is theatrical, certainly what my character is doing, but there are moments of real intimacy here, and that almost a cinematic intimacy. And I think that we have booster mics on the stage, which we do make use of. I think it's important to have them because the style of acting is very different than it was when that house was built, and I think you have to account for that. I prefer things not to be amplified if possible, but a little help that isn't noticed, I think, is okay because of where things are now.
Next question.
Hi, I'm Sarah Price, and this question is for the panel. When you've had to audition for roles in the past, maybe when you first started out as actors, how did you go about choosing a monologue when you had to bring one in? Where would you find them? How long did it take you to pick a monologue?
Okay, who has a monologue?
I came from drama school with 5. So that's how I did it. That's just like, and never used them.
Yeah.
Oh, did you have a monologue?
I would read something and then I'd end up making stuff up. I did. I was never I never did monologues.
Stanley, did you have a monologue?
I did have monologues, but they weren't really. I mean, I had them at school, but we weren't. I never really used them in New York.
Oh,
they just give you something to do. Seldom were they used.
I always auditioned for musicals. I had songs instead of monologues.
Oh, okay. So you had a song, but you had a song that you had chosen?
Sometimes, yes, depending on what I was auditioning for. When I was auditioning for Saigon when I was 17, I came in with On My Own thinking, it's a Bob Leland-Schonberg show. I'd better come in with a Bob Leland-Schonberg song. And then they asked me to sing something else. And I'm like, and I said, complete blank out. I said, oh, okay, can I do The Greatest Love of All by Whitney Houston? And I thought I was going to have to do it a cappella, and then by sheer divine something or other, somebody left their music on the piano.
No.
And I used it. And it was perfect. It was in my key. I sang it, and I got the
It was meant to be. Did you have a monologue?
It's been such a long time since we've had to use monologues to audition. As Stan said, they give you stuff. I get an anxiety attack just thinking about those days. But what I would recommend, if that's what I'm being asked to do in any way here, is to pick something close to yourself, something that you might actually, around your age and the lifestyle that you might understand. because those are the things, I think those are the best way to represent yourself if that's what you're being asked to do, rather than doing a huge stretch. My experience was picking stuff that was close to me.
Did you have a monologue or two?
No, actually, when I came to New York, I had such a strong Tennessee accent. I talked like this, kind of like this, and the only time it disappeared when I would do Shakespeare. But, and that's all I was in, for a few years. And you didn't. I don't ever remember auditioning for a play. You didn't get to audition for plays. You had to be invited to when I first came here. Musicals, you could audition, and I only knew the last 16 bars of On the Street Where You Live for 2 years. That's all I
You sang that.
Then I used to screw it up every time.
Yes.
Okay, my name is Christina Lind. This question is for Stanley Tucci. In your opinion, what are the major differences in your acting or directing choices from film to theater?
Next. The difference between the choices in acting as an actor?
And or directing, acting and directing, yeah.
I gravitate, as an actor, I think as an actor I gravitate towards things that are that are going to be challenging and that are going to make use of a part of myself that maybe I haven't used before. You hope never to repeat yourself. Of course, you do end up repeating yourself sometimes, inevitably, because maybe there aren't parts available. And I've had that happen at certain points in my career. And that was one of the things that actually brought me to directing, was that I was feeling dissatisfied with what was available to me as an actor, though I had worked pretty consistently. I was finding that I was not satisfied, creatively satisfied. So I felt the need to be satisfied in a different way. I look now to things that are really going to challenge me and things that I have never done before. And as a director, I'm interested in directing films that are, I suppose, outside the studio system. Not suppose, that are outside the studio system. Films that are more intimate films that are not plot-driven films, but are character-driven films, and have characters that are ambiguous, that aren't sort of black and white. And usually the ending is ambiguous also. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that attracts me. And those really ultimately are the roles that attract me, too. The role of the hero, quote-unquote, doesn't attract me. And I'll never be cast in it, so it's perfect. But I think roles that have ambiguity and complexity, roles that that the audience can't quite put their finger on, those are the most interesting, ultimately.
Yes.
And to wrap up, question for the panel: what do you think or hope that the theater is heading towards today? New York City theater, Broadway, off-Broadway. What do you think?
The future of the American theater. Who wants to tackle it? John, you've been around.
No, I can only talk about the past.
The past.
My hope for the theater is that it outlives me. And it will. Believe me.
It will.
I have great faith in the theater, but.
Well, Lea, you've been around doing.
I've been around a lot.
You've been around line too. You started so young, so you actually have a tremendous amount of experience. How does it?
I just wish there was more musical theater out in LA, because I'll be moving there after I finish Flower Drum Song, because I'm getting married next year.
Oh,
I know, my fiance's out there, so of course I'm like, woo, really sad being here. But you know, I'm just really happy with how theater is changing now. We have a couple of chorus guys in our show who remember the day when they would be the only Asians, and there's maybe one or two of them, in an audition. And now they come into auditions, and there's a whole room full of people who are taking on the challenge of being actors in the theater. And of course, I'm going, yay, there's more of us now, you know? And it's the community is just getting bigger, and there's a lot of interest from the Asian community to get into this business. So I just hope that it continues. More musical theater in LA. That's all I wish for.
Well, you're just starting, so we'll see you in a long time. But
well, I would like the opportunity to work in more plays.
Yes.
I miss having, I miss living in New York City, and I feel like, I know I moved to Los Angeles because I did not have work to do here, satisfying work to do here. And I would like to see far more plays for everyone, but especially for people of color. And not just plays for people of color, but plays that include people of color. In my play the other night, a woman came out and she goes, "Well, Ethel, it wasn't a black play after all." You know, you think, well, what's going on here? It's a wild thing that's happening here in this theater right now for me, that I have to live far away and come back and do maybe a play a year or write them. You know what I mean? For myself and for friends and for... I mean, I know that's what has to happen is we have to write them.
Yes, you have to
write them. But they are being written, but they have to be produced. They can't just be workshopped. They're being workshopped all over the country. Wonderful plays. But someone has to take a chance and say, and we're going to produce this play so that everyone in New York can see it.
I'm always so surprised when an August Wilson play comes out and there will be 6 or 8 African-American actors, and they are so good. And I always say, where have they been? Where are they working? They are so incredible.
That
good.
has to change. There was a
They
time
have to
when
wait
it was
only for August Wilson and you.
It's got to change, you know. It's just got to change. And our playwrights are doing really great work, and but more of them need more exposure. Because I really want to be a part of the new American classics for the stage. I want to help create those so that we don't. I love our revivals. I love the work that's been put up before us so that we can just do that. We know that's fabulous. That's wonderful. We can just do that. It's flawless now. But I'd love to be a part of the new American classics that are about to be born.
That's a great place to end. We all hope for, optimism in the theater, and I think you're right. Thank you so very much. This was great. I learned a lot, and it was a lot of fun. You were all very good. Thanks so much. This has been the American Theater Wing seminar on working in the theater. We thank you so much for watching. We come from the Graduate Center of City University at New York. Thank you.